myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say to...
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is NUFC Matters 3 Amigos, and big welcome as always to Keith, to Mitch, to Steve, Joe, Toon Tifter on with us live tonight, and a big welcome to you, 2 hours to get you into the match day experience feel. The weekend is upon us. Newcastle at home to Bournemouth. I have put a little poll up on the page, which I would like you to vote on. This is our most popular show of the week, but I am contemplating, because of my commitment to the film, which I'll be spending a bit more time on over the next few months, to put the show back an hour. Not Friday. Friday will remain as 5 till 7. But potentially putting the show back Monday to Thursday to 7 o'clock. So I'd like you to have your say. Put a vote. Put your vote in. Either stay as you are, move it to 7, or even move it to 8. I am prepared to go to 8 if it's better for people. But I'm going to have to change it, albeit for a few months. Have a look, see what you think. Is getting in from work at 6 o'clock a bit of a rush? Have you got kids to get that tea? And just let us know. But I mean, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I'm prepared to do it for a couple of months, because it's me who's asking to change. But we will see how it all progresses. As always, plenty to talk about. It's just a case of what we start with. And because we've all had our say on the Americanization of our beautiful game, let's ask Keith Patterson what he thinks of Ted Bowley's situation and what he suggested this week of, maybe he's just having a North versus South game at some point. Should we all just switch off for half an hour?
Just remind Mr. Bowley, he's been in this job 5 minutes. He'd be better off focusing on how Chelsea are going to maintain the level of purchasing with the structures of the Premier League next season. Is what he's done this year. But football was invented in England in the 1600s. Football, as America likes to call it, was invented in 1857. Rugby was invented in rugby in 1823, when a guy called Ellis picked the ball up and ran during a game of football. And football's done us quite proud. It's our national sport. Americans seem very good at generating business with other people's money. But the competition we work and run now is the most prestigious and most powerful football league in the world. And we don't need the American influx to come and tell us how to run our national sport. Equally, we wouldn't tell you how to come and run yours. But please don't come over here and after 5 minutes, when your balls haven't dropped, come over and start telling us how to run a game of football and start to tell us about North and South and start coming. No doubt Chelsea will feature the South game and probably Liverpool the North game. What about other clubs? What about Southampton's? What about the teams who don't get in your South team like Fulham? What about Newcastle? Teams that aren't interested in Liverpool and Manchester, but they come over here and they hit us with, there'll be 4 quarter periods before you know it. There'll be a load of rah-rahs jumping around and a load of Stuart horns, which we banned out the World Cup, and then there'll be timeouts and then there'll be refreshment stops. We don't want it. We don't want it. We want you to come over and toe the line with our sport. This is our game. And we politely invite you over. But the lad called Sean Casey, he gets some stick online, but he comes up with some good points. He said this week, he said, what's going to happen when there's 11 American-owned teams in the league? Are we getting outvoted? Is the 11 teams going to make it a franchise model? And is it all going? I want a game that looks like my granddad's game. I want something. My granddad lived in Ashington, and he lived in the same streets as the Milburns. And they were fastidious. They dreamt football. They slept it, and it was everything. And not much has changed. If I had my way, there wouldn't be 5 subs and 7, so it'd be 2. And I like football just as it was played, with the corner flags made of wood, and a game of football that looks like a game of football. But I don't want an American version of it. You can't even call it the proper name. We don't play soccer. That's just what you give it because you wanted to create. You pinched our name. And if it's football, that means you kick it with your foot. But football in America picks the ball up. So what's going on there? Football doesn't do anything. So you come over here, you start telling us about our game, and really, you haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue. And if you come with your fancy votes and get your 11 franchise teams over, competition will all kick in with you. You'll not just be able to come and create and do what you want. This is our national sport. Come and join in, by all means. We love visitors. We love investment, but respect what you're coming to. The greatest football league in the world. And you really, when you talk about North and South divide, so Callum Wilson plays for the Northern team, gets injured in the first game. How does that make us feel? How do you think Newcastle's looked with no Bruno, no St. Maxim, and no Callum Wilson? We haven't got the ability to flout the rules like you have. You got franchise, you got takeovers passed for Wolverhampton Wanderers, for Crystal Palace, for Manchester City and Manchester United, and none of them would have gone through the scrutiny Newcastle did. So your big six are currently hanging on the strings, but very soon PIF will stop all that. They'll stop it because they're too powerful, and you know that. But next time you come over and you've been here weeks, not months, don't try and change the rules. Don't try and take our one charitable event like the Charity Shield and say we're going to scrap that, because that means a lot to us. And going to the season, if you've won the league or the cup and you get the Charity Shield, we got battered last time. I went and watched the Charity Shield, but it's a great event, and it creates a lot of money for charity. That's what we're about. We're not about taking other people's money. We're not about using what franchises use. During the takeover, I was talking to the guy who bought it to Crystal Palace. He had a quarter of the money Mike Ashley had, but he wanted to buy it Newcastle. I said, they're never back yet. Ashley said he hasn't got enough money to do this, but it's a franchise model. He says, if I take over Newcastle, it'll be funded by a stock market. In other words, the mortgage of the club. That's the American model. That's what the Glazers did. That's what Wolves will do if they get this new one, and that's what Bournemouth will get. And that's what Burnley got. So just please, please, please respect. There's people with more money than the rest of the league put together are going to stop you doing what you're doing. But please, please respect what we've got, what we've built, and follow our line rather than expect us to follow yours. Thank you.
Yeah, well, rant over and people enjoy it. Michael says, go on, I love a good rant. Mitch, since we spoke on Wednesday, more developments and more potential, takeover talk with American owners.
Yeah, I mean, this carries on nicely from the rant fest that was Jodie's here, Jodie's there on Wednesday, and I think if anybody hasn't seen it, it's worth going back and having a little glance at it. This is the whole reason why me and Steve have banged on for the last 18 months that the Cleveland presentation to the integrity of the Premier League was not money from Saudi Arabia. It wasn't money from the Far East or the Near East. It was money from America. And once they started to get a toehold, it would become the latest plaything that Americans want to be involved in. When you've got companies like JP Morgan prepared to back things, when you've got hedge funds and you've got companies like MSD who seem to have a loan out to every club that's been in trouble in the last 5 years, all with clauses in that they can take ownership of the club if there's any sort of default or problem. When you've got Burnley now being investigated by the Football League because they're now doing the dirty work of the Premier League to investigate exactly who the owners are via this Delaware company. These are the kind of ownership structures that were always going to be problematic for our game. And the more toehold they get and the more backing, the more ways they can sit in corners and have secret meetings with each other and create a party line to toe, the more danger it presents. I've also seen the suggestion, well, what Todd Bowley's done is quite clever. He's leaked something that is the least controversial thing that they're going to say to get we're ready and softened up for what the real arguments are going to be. And I think that's quite a valid point. That's how these things sometimes work and sometimes come to pass. Like I said on Wednesday, it shows from Todd Bowley a clear and utter disregard and lack of understanding of the culture of our game. And this is the way they will play it. At the end of the day, they're there to make a profit. And they're not going to do that running Chelsea the way Abramovich ran Chelsea, because they're not going to be prepared to throw away millions a month to just keep things ticking. Like you said, they've got a problem, and the problem is they've got to make everything balance over the next 2 years. And how are they going to do that? And is this another team that has been leaking money and that has been spending beyond their means, who are just waiting, hoping and praying that can push a Super League through, like very much the case it seems to be at Barcelona in particular. So they stand out with what their behaviour is that they don't give an absolute damn about FFP either in their own country or across UEFA, because I suspect what they're hoping is that the Super League will happen very, very soon again, and then all the monetary things go out the window. Like I say, this is why me and Steve have been quite open and frank about our thoughts on this. And this isn't just me and him sitting talking on WhatsApp and via email. This is us also speaking to people we know inside the Football League, inside the Premier League, inside the game. People who try to buy clubs, people who've been involved in buying clubs, people who are still actively looking to buy clubs. And they all say the same thing, that the American influence backed by leveraged bids, the only way that can work is with an NFL style model where there's no promotion and relegation, where the broadcast money is distributed equally between the elite, and the sponsorships are through the roof. And that's the only way it works. It's the only way how that can balance the books. And that's my great worry is that, yes, where Keith says that PIF will stop it, they will be desperate for Saudi money to be involved in that. And I think that's why you see some of the schmoozing that's been happening by getting Amanda and Maida along to Stamford Bridge and let's have a chat, come have a coffee, all of that kind of thing. It's a danger to the entire integrity of our league. And that's why we as fans should be prepared to stand up and stop it if we get the chance.
Dead right.
Yeah, Steve, it's as I say, we had a great chat about this on Wednesday, but yeah, I mean, we continued the chat on social media, didn't we? On Twitter, backwards and forwards, and highlighting a few of these things that we've been talking about on this platform for the last 2 years.
Absolutely. We're talking as well about a bloke called Todd Bowley who wanted to play a 4-4-3 formation. We mentioned that. You know, this is the leveling up. You know what? Todd Bowley gets his way. We'll have squads of 40. You know, the touchline will look like in American football. There'll be that many players. There'll be that many changes. You can see it happening. They're talking about. He's talking about 20 billion in TV rights, worldwide TV rights. That'll not be split evenly. He's you know for a fact that what will happen there is you'll end up with some little mini Super League where the top 6, as they currently exist, will create their own little TV company that'll take the overseas distribution rights, because they're not going to go out and all do their own collective bargaining or their own separate bargain. These guys will get together, you know, and they'll start to do little deals, all of that type of thing, and that's when the lower clubs will start to lose out. You look at what he did at Chelsea when he took over. Buck left and everybody laughed. Gravenskaya left and everybody laughed. Peter Cech left. And at the same time, he put himself in and he covers all 3 positions. You know, he's taken on this sort of super role of running what is basically, as he says, his own football club, but it's actually Bankroll Football Club, where he's got other people pulling the strings behind him. But he's the front man, and he's the guy who, you know, he's got the history in American baseball or wherever it is. It's just very, very sad. And Mitch, you know, and Keith have hit it quite eloquently. We knew what was going to happen. We foresaw this. We could see it, and this is where the so-called governance of football is going to slip through. The Tory government will probably not take on board anything, or they'll take the low-hanging fruit from that review that Tracy Crouch did. There's already whispers that the new Prime Minister is going to shelve it. It'd be interesting to see what the supporters authorities like the FSA do, and what teeth they have and where they will concentrate. Bowley's talking about things like, you know, an asset, the club being an asset to the community, and that sounds great, you know, and that's the bread and butter of the FSA. But there's so much that will come behind, like an absolute sledgehammer, to crack that nut from them, because you don't trust them. We don't trust them. We never have done. with owners like that and clubs like that, they'll be completely take a hammer to crack a nut situation. They'll destroy the game, destroy what we know. I'm fearful for the pyramid that everybody loves, because we see the benefit of the pyramid for other clubs, and we'll talk about that pyramid. And I'm sure as the show goes on, with a certain player who's now managed to get into the England squad through working his way back up through the pyramid. Without that, you would never have got that. There are other players in the England squad probably in similar situations. So it's going to be shambolic. It's going to be a mess. And unless supporters and other clubs keep their eye on the ball, they'll be very, very quickly. This'll roll through, and they'll not even seen it, and it'll be sitting there on their lap.
Joe, your thoughts on this this development this week?
There's a few bits for me, Steve. We talk a lot on a Monday night about can people just leave our game alone? So we talk about what happens on the pitch, VAR, magic spray, and all the rest of it. Now, what we're actually talking about, as Steve said, is a very real fundamental threat to the structure of our game. So we made our feelings perfectly clear when the European Super League was muted. Totally agree with what the guys were saying. I don't think it's gone away. Mitch is right. You wonder what Barcelona are playing at. Do they know that there's a magical, mythical, endless pot of gold coins coming soon? So why not just do what we want and we'll get away with it? However, as the self-proclaimed Simon Jordan of this channel, there's another couple of bits as well, though, that clearly American sport works. The razzmatazz and all of that works. It drags people in. The global viewing figures for everything from wrestling to bloody tiddlywinks is off the scale. So I can understand why the Premier League might want a little piece of that. I'd like to think we lived in a world where how much money is too much, but there's no such thing with these companies, and we know that. And very interestingly, gentlemen, just to drop a slight a little spanner in the works, I guess, is yes, absolutely agree.
Curveball, Joe.
Curveball, yeah. I'll throw you a curveball. I'll pitch you a curveball, Steve. Don't forget what we're talking about is you're talking about American ownership. Interestingly, we've just employed a guy who's been at Atlanta United for the best part of their revolution to our kind of CEO. So, are we talking about American ownership, or are we talking about American influence? I'd like to think Mr. Eels was very much on our side in terms of leave it alone and bugger off America. What's the first thing he said? If I can bring what we do in the American game over to St. James's Park, we'll push this football club forward. Does he agree with what the Chelsea owner's saying? Time will tell, I guess. So interesting, but I just wish people would leave it alone. We're going to have nothing to talk about on a Friday night.
Interesting point. Let us know what you think. Lots of interesting points coming through. Mr. Anderson, good evening, says, did Wenger say 58 European clubs are now owned by Americans? Imagine the English taking over the NFL teams and trying to change their throw egg ball game. Great show, Steve. Thanks very much, Mr. Anderson. The EPL should be trying to work out how to increase funding further down the pyramid, not siphoning money off to pay dividends. And Mark Earlham says we shouldn't be closed down to change. Some of the ideas are ridiculous, but doing nothing is just as bad. Gary says, whilst we're on the subject of USA, there's too many Americanisms creeping into our language. It really boils his piss. Interesting. Michael says Saudis like to disrupt LIV golf. They will hold a grudge against the EPL, so it wouldn't surprise me if they do agree to Euro Super League. They want a return. Tim says he's looking forward to the cheerleaders, though. Sky tried that, mate. Didn't work very well. Ferry Hill Mags, good evening. Says, no way will the Premier League will go down the American route. Die-hard football fans will boycott their own clubs and start following their local non-league clubs. Interesting. Relegation in the NFL, please, says Tom Lynch. Some great points coming through. Arthur Bainbridge has been quite active tonight as well. He says the top 22 English teams with Celtic and Rangers included could create interest worldwide and make more money. This money could be used for charity or lower leagues. Lots of interesting stuff. Andrew says Americans only care about advertising space. And Dan says the Super League had nothing to do with the EPL. It was a replacement for the Champions League. So It's definitely something that's got people chattering, people talking. Keep your points coming in. We'll try to get to them as we can. As always, plenty to get through on this show tonight. And usually I end up having to cram everything in at the end. I'm a bit more organised today. The day I met, where I ask you to send in photographs of you meeting former Newcastle players, current Newcastle players, managers, the tea lady, whoever. This one from Ian. He met Peter Beardsley. Great stuff, mate. And loving the old retro shirt. Classic one, that one. Absolute classic. I've always loved the grey Newcastle tops. I think it's that black and white and grey. I think it just works as you're home and away. Alan Davison sent this one. For consideration of this week's edition for When I Met, the dude with the bloody Snoopy jumper on is me, taken a week or so prior to the League Cup final in 1976. Regards, Alan Davison. Absolutely brilliant, that. I'll point that in the direction to Malcolm as well. I know he signed it, but he always likes to see old photographs. And this one, I have to turn to this side to go like that. But John Whitley says, the day I met 3 Geordie legends and 3 others. And there we go. He's got a couple of Mackhams on there. There's Peter Reid, Kevin Ball, Kevin Phillips, Darren Peacock, Rob Lee, and John Beresford. Quite a collection there, mate, on a day I met photo. But get them into me, send them to me or the lads on Twitter, and we will feature you on the show. Thanks for sending them in. Don't forget, we do raise money for the food bank on here. The current T-shirt is up for grabs tonight. We finish this one tonight. It's the Beresford T-shirt, Bears 92 to 98. It's one of a new range of Legends T-shirts that we're going to be doing as part of the food bank prize each week. So this one, you've got about one and a quarter hours to get your bid in for this. Just go to @SteveWraith on Twitter, give me a follow and place your bid. It's a pinned post at the top of my account. Winner will be announced around about 6:45. And John from QTech, as always, is doing a monthly giveaway. You have your second clue this week. So this was your first clue, 2nd of February, 1903. And your second clue is this. Adrionians. Okay, so that's your 2 clues. Jot them down. Clue 3 next week. And we're hedging towards the 4th clue. And then the competition ends in the chat. Good luck with that. Okay, next point of conversation, Keith. Something which is brewed today. Obviously, with the death of Her Royal Highness, Her Majesty the Queen, the rail strike has been called off. But now it is back on. And it looks as if they're going for the 1st and the 5th of October. Now, the problem with that is, once again, Newcastle fans will be affected. A game to Fulham, travelling away, 3 o'clock kickoff, means that if the ballot goes in favour of strike action, which I believe it will do, there's going to be potentially no trains to London on a day when we're travelling down there, making things increasingly difficult for fans. Some fans have already booked tickets, which of course will be an added problem. We've seen a game in recent weeks postponed. That game was Brighton versus Crystal Palace. The distance between the 2 clubs, 41 miles. Newcastle all-round trip, 700 miles to get to this game. Should our game be called off, Keith? Should the club be doing something to help us on this particular issue?
I just drove this morning from Guildford, and I think that's 280 miles or something. And I set off this morning, 6:15, and never stopped once, thrashed it back, and it's a hell of a journey. And I went to Brighton away with some lads from Middlesbrough, Raymondo and his team, and had a great day. But you're getting picked up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're getting down to Brighton, and you're zombied when you get there. You stop once, and you're zombied, and when you come back, you get out the car, you're like it's like being on a different planet. So for me, when they can stop a game 41 miles, I think it tells us that we're well within our rights to cancel that game if there's a train strike. But what I'd like to see is I'd like to see a little bit of a think tank. I think if there's, I'm just going to pull a number out there. Let's suppose there's 4,000 fans going down. That's not a lot of coaches. And if you look at the way the club's developing, if you look at the way the team's taken off and the way the fans are getting behind them, think of how many people crossed Newcastle's turnstiles for 2 friendlies at the start of the season. Like just think of how many, was it 80-something thousand people coming on a Friday and a Saturday, 2 consecutive dates? That puts tremendous monies into the club, not just in ticket money, because they might actually £10 price. They were a more realistic £20 price. Everybody went, everyone had a great night. But that's big money. So why doesn't the club just sit down and say, I'll tell you what we should do. Let's just look at the Fulham game. We've been discriminated against because of our distance. Nobody sat down and thought how far it really is from Newcastle. I've just done the trip today. And it's you've done it. Do Brighton and back. Palace is a terrible place to get to. Fulham, they all long journeys. So why don't they just say, right, we're going to put coaches on? Just like they used to do it at Sunderland. They used to bring coaches up to the football club and take them into Sunderland to stop the trouble. So it goes all in the buses, goes in and goes out. Why don't they just say it for the Fulham game? They've messed you around again. We're going to repay your loyalty. And I haven't got a Fulham ticket, but all you people who have got one and are worried, the train people should give you your money back. The hotel people should give you your money back because it's a train strike. But the club should be sitting there saying free transport down to Fulham if everybody's got a ticket. That's what I think.
I personally think that Newcastle should apply to have the game off. I think they should test the boundaries. I'm not sure what the rule book states. That game should be off for me, and gives us a chance to get it played. But we're saying to more players in January. But for me personally, I don't want to get the bus. My chosen transport to go to an away game is the train. I don't want to have to fork out for a flight. I don't want to get in a car or get in a bus and go all the way down there because the train people are going on strike. And if what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if Crystal Palace and Brighton can call the game off because of transportation issues, and so can we, Mitch.
Really difficult call because there's already a precedent. They didn't do anything when we went out to go to Brighton. Yeah. And there was train strikes then.
There was.
And so which way do we go? Do we treat it like Brighton? Or do we treat it like the Brighton Palace decision just baffles me. 41 mile. And not 2 clubs that we've taken massive support.
Took a bus each.
And they have a made-up rivalry. It's not like it's an invented derby. It's a joke. And so, absolutely, in the name of fair-handedness, they should be treating our fixture with Fulham exactly the same. And I'm going to sit here now and say I bet they don't.
I bet they don't.
I bet they don't. Could the club do something to help? Yes, of course. Wouldn't that be yet another one of those easy wins that we keep going on about? Yeah. About the new ownership finding ways to make the fan base happier and make the fan base say, hey, you are behind us and we'll be behind you even further. So I think it would be, we need to see some of this dialogue happening now, though, if this is actually the case. And if the case is that train strike happens when we've got to travel to London, we need to be treated with a fair and even hand by everybody involved in the decision-making process. And my lingering concern is we have already got lots of evidence that when it comes to Newcastle United and their fans, we don't seem to get a fair and even hand with everybody. So, I think it's time for somebody within the club to step up and try and find a solution that keeps everybody happy.
Steve, am I just grumbling for the sake of grumbling? People saying, you know, there could be a fixture backlog. I mean, Tom's saying, you know, if we do go down that route, the problem is with train strikes probably going to be rolling on, which they are. Do we then call off future games? Could be a massive backlog. You'd have to be unlucky ultimately if it was Newcastle every week. But then I guess it could involve a Newcastle fixture. Andy G saying if the real strike continues, games are cancelled, we'll have fixture mayhem. That's the whole point of strikes, though, isn't it? To try and get what you want by, you know, annoying the people.
Yeah, and it's up to the government and it's up to the Transport Secretary to get around the table with the unions and sort this problem out, because it's affecting so many people in the country, and they're sitting on their backsides doing absolutely nothing about it. Grant Shapps, when he was in charge of the Department of Transport, just ignored it, and Mike Lynch has been trying for God knows how long to have a proper dialogue about the whole transport situation. So it's political, and we're caught up in it as football fans. Once again, caught up in a political situation. I'm 100% behind you, Stephen, what you're saying, because I would be exactly the same. I wouldn't want to travel all the way down on a coach and all the way back. I'm interested in what Keith's saying about the Sunderland. Mitch and I know fine well what the strength of feeling was about having to be forced to go onto buses to various games. We all remember the time when Sir John Hall announced that he was going to introduce his own bus system. He was going to, you know, they were going to take over, and all away tickets, you were going to have to travel on the club's own system of transport. And there was absolutely hell to pay, if you remember. Yet Sunderland are quite happy to travel, because the way that Sunderland's supporters have been organised for many, many years is that they provide and they run their own supporters clubs dotted all around County Durham and parts of Northumberland, and they bust themselves in anyway to games, both home and away. Newcastle fans, from time immemorial, have always been, I do it myself. I organise it myself. That's the herding cats, exactly, that Mitch has talked about for God knows how long. We also, if we remember, at that particular time, Mitch, when Sir John was going to bring in a club transport system for away travel, a lot of people complained because they said, well, we already organise our own transport, and we have a system in place. Whether it was, I don't know, the Back Page or whoever it was at that particular time, I think there were a number of fan groups that were running their own. So it's a hornet's nest. No matter what you do, it's a nightmare. And as I say, yet again, it's up to the government this time to sort this situation out, because it's affecting sport, it's affecting the national game, it's affecting people's livelihoods, it's affecting the real workers themselves, because they don't want to go on strike. They want decent pay, working conditions, and they want terms of service that they can guarantee that they've got a job for, and they're not going to be put under pressure and suddenly get redundancies. And
that's the problem. I'm involved in it. My wife works for the railways, and I know what they're fighting for, and I completely agree with it. And I think they have to do this. You know, ultimately, it's ludicrous what they're suggesting, and you're right. You know, without going down the whole political path here, you know, the fact that Grant Shapps just wouldn't get involved, you know, sitting around the table is what is creating this. But this isn't just a real issue. I mean, this is just everything. You know, we've seen it. We've seen it with the refuse collectors. We're seeing it with every major industry, postal workers. It's a nightmare, and it needs sorting out. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. But you know, and someone, I think it was Alan Thompson talking in the chat there. You know, the Brighton Palace thing was well before the Queen's death. So it's got nothing to do with police. They're saying it was policing, but it's got nothing to do with the Queen passing away, mate. So Joe, what's your take on this, mate?
Yeah, it's the shit state of the country affecting football. But let's not make it about football, lads. Yes, we're affected. You know, massive empathy with anyone who's got a ticket to go down there and expecting to get a train. It affects students travelling. It affects people going to Heathrow on holiday. It affects the whole country. And actually, Tom stole my thunder a little bit, because what I was going to say is, you know, this is an ongoing issue. It isn't just about the next rail strike. And where do you draw the line? I mean, as you know, I get the training from Middlesbrough. You know, we get affected by the train strike, you know. And yes, there's a bigger difference between going to London and going to Middlesbrough. I get that, but it's still the same issue, isn't it? So yeah, you know, you'd like to think that football would take precedent in this country as mad football fans that we are. You know, you'd like, how dare they arrange a strike on the day that we've got a football game? Football's got nothing to do with it. This is about a government who really, really needs to sit down and stand up for the rights of the workers. And like you say, Steve, you know, I'm a registered nurse, as you know. Yeah. We're about to go to ballot in unprecedented times with the RCN and Unison in terms of striking. So then what? You know, we'll have no games over Christmas because you'll have nobody in A&E. You'll have no police officers on the streets. Where does it stop? So yeah, really empathise. I'd love the club to do something about it, although logistically, where do you park 80 coaches of Newcastle fans at Craven Cottage? It's a nightmare. So yes, we'll ask for it to be postponed. Yes, they'll say no, absolutely no grounds to do it. Get on with it and get your game played.
Yeah. Well, look, it's one which will run, and like Tom Lynch mentioned earlier, I'm sure we'll have more issues, you know, moving forward until things get sorted out with a country. But it's one that I thought to bring up. Moving on to strikers, and a striker from the past, something which I covered last night. John Tudor. You know, his family needing help at the moment. Something which I plugged last night because obviously we do the show with Gibbo and with Supermac, and this is a fundraiser that's been, you know, set up by Jonathan Tudor, who is his son. Obviously, the strike partner, the Supermac, he needs help. He's going through a bad time at the moment with Alzheimer's, and I've stuck the link to the fundraiser in the chat tonight. We did it last night. It was a couple of hundred put in by our viewers. I think it's up to $3,982 at the moment. The goal is $20,000. This is for the healthcare that he needs in America. You know, to make him, you know, give him a little bit more help in his life, make his last days, if you like, a little bit more comfortable, because living in America, he doesn't get the beauty of the National Health Service. So yeah, please give generously if you can. Please help John Tudor. I did promise I would push this a little bit this week. I mean, Keith, John Tudor, it's before my time. You know, black and white videos of him and Supermac. I grew up on them. I grew up on them, and my dad's told us a lot about them. But you know, it's sad to hear that he's struggling.
He's a cracking player, you know, and I watched him home and away. And he you know, he was one of them underrated players. You know what I mean? He had great talent, and you wonder whether the Alzheimer's, because that age-old argument about heading the football. He was a tremendous head of a ball, like, and you know, like he used to hang in the air. He just for the size of him, that he had great heading ability. You just wonder whether, you know, all that heading the footballs back then, much different ball to what we play with now. You wonder if there's any impact of that. But all I can say to you was he was diehard black and white, and you know, like, players then didn't cost a fraction of what they cost now. And McDonald was a genius in them days. You know, he was like, he had like freak power. McDonald's speed and acceleration was, well, it was you know, he was on telly 10.9 seconds, I remember, without starting blocks. Was, you know, 100 meters. He was a freak runner, McDonald. And with the ball at his feet, there's not many could stop him. But John Tudor, people like him, God bless him, he's gone now. Terry Hibbert, Jimmy Smith, you know, we had some great players, but them players weren't the ones who were getting Liverpool's side. And, you know, like, we had the best we could get. But when you see a lad like that, you know, all I can say is give generously to him. And it's you know, it's a sad shame. I'd be a lot happy, you know, if Todd Bowley would start looking at that, and on his own patch, they don't run an NHS system. Maybe if he could focus on that over there and realise that great people like John Tudor reside in his country. Maybe he's raised some money over there for people, help towards that charity, rather than coming over here trying to take charity events away from us.
Mitch, it's the way of the world now, isn't it? Unfortunately, and with him being stuck in another country, it's quite brutal, that he has to do this. But I think the Newcastle fans will certainly get behind it.
Absolutely. I mean, I would live and work in live in a country and work in a healthcare system which is insurance based, very much like the US these days. And obviously, as you guys know, and many people watching will know, that Alzheimer's is something close to my heart, because my lovely mum's been dealing with that, and my even lovelier dad's been caring for her and watching his wife disappear slowly, bit by bit, over the last number of years. And the other thing that is close to my heart is my connections in sports dentistry, who are involved in part looking at the whole complex area of brain injury in sport and how impacts of all kinds can affect the brain and bring on, because there's so many players. My dad talked about this on Wednesday show a little bit, from his era, who have suffered dementia and or Alzheimer's and other forms of degenerative brain disease. And what role has heading the ball properly or improperly played in that? And across other sports as well, the investigation concussion effects in both rugby and American football, in particular in the NFL, looking at the effects of degenerative brain injuries and their associations with concussion and the ways people are hit. And there's lots of interesting studies being done in Greece and France at the moment with footballers looking at this kind of thing. And this is where you get some of this reactionary stuff, which I don't always agree with, where you start saying, oh, well, under 12s can't head the ball. No, what I think is under 12s should be being taught to head the ball properly. And I think that's the key to it. But yes, something very much close to my heart for a number of different reasons. Anybody who can help a legend with the club, really, to battle such a cruel and horrible disease that I've witnessed firsthand, and anything and everything can help.
I mean, me personally, I agree with what Jano's just said. Given the amount of money in football, surely they can foot the bills for situations like this rather than having to go to the fans for funding. I guess a lot of it, comes down to whether there was was there a Players Football Association then? I'm a Footballers Association then. I don't know. I mean, this is the problem Malcolm McDonald had. His career was curtailed due to his bad knees, and he didn't play the full career that he should have done, and Malcolm struggled. When he retired, he eventually built himself up and became, a fairly successful businessman, but was in a lot of pain, and it didn't get his needs done until a lot later in life. So, and the fact that John Tudor lives abroad, I think that's the problem. He lives in America. It's different laws, different rules. Steve, hallelujah, John Tudor, you remember him?
I do. I remember him very, very well. That partnership that he had with Supermac. And Keith just rattled off some of the names there. I was just going to go Barrowclough, Smith, McDonald, Tudor, Hibbert. They've just rolled off the tongue. They still do. And you look at McFall, Craig Clark, Gibb, Burton, Moncourt. And that was the 97, 72, 73, 74 squad. Then you had Tommy Cassidy, who sadly is suffering in exactly the same way. There were great times, but he was a great footballer. He was an absolute strength in the air. When we talk about Malcolm being able to head the ball, John could head the ball like nobody else. I mean, he was one of the finest exponents. And in those days, there were some great headers of the ball. There was some fantastic players knocking around in the league at that particular time. But John was right there up among the best. In terms of his aerial combative skills and really good on the floor as well. People probably didn't appreciate that so much, but great foil. It's very sad to hear that he's suffering. For me, it's also sad, and you touched on it slightly there, Steve. It's also sad that the PFA, the Professional Football Association, have sat on their hands for so long and done absolutely nothing, despite it being thrown back at them constantly from Jeff Astle onwards, and Jeff Astle's daughter, who has campaigned vociferously over the last 10 or 12 years. And they are just now saying, oh, yeah, we're going to look at this, we're going to look at that. Alan Shearer did a great programme a couple of years ago on TV.
He did.
we looked at the impact and effects of Alzheimer's in ex-players and whether it was attributable possibly to be heading the ball. And still the PFA have sat in their hands and not done anything. And whether it's because of litigation or potential litigation and they're worried to even be seen to admit anything or to be seen to be supportive of some sort of campaign or even supporting ex-players that are suffering. But this is an example where existing players should be looking at their union and going, do something about these ex-players, because eventually we are going to be ex-players. We want to know as professional footballers whether we're going to be impacted in the future. But in the meantime, the players that have been impacted, we all have a duty to be supportive of them. And we're not talking about vast amount of money either. But this is what a union was about. This is what being in a union is about. It's strange that I'm saying this after the conversation we previously just had about the rail strike. But the Professional Footballers Association is the footballers' union, and it should be taking the authorities to task about this, and the club to task, and the clubs themselves have a responsibility because they employed those footballers at that particular time, and those were the conditions of service that they were put in. And yes, I know we're looking back historically, but at least be, with all the money that's swirling around the game, at least be supportive of ex-players. There's probably more support given to ex-racehorses than there are to ex-footballers, to be perfectly honest. And if that doesn't sicken you, then I don't know what else should. And don't get us wrong, I'm not saying we shouldn't be looking after our ex-racehorses, by the way, before anyone jumps.
You'll get some post here.
You say that'll get clipped and played over and over.
Aye. Whoa, that'll be after you, Hasty.
Hasty the horse puncher.
Exactly. He punched the horse.
Isn't it? This is what we're up against. So get off your backsides, authorities, sort this out. Professional players, sort it out among yourselves, be supportive. And as far as all we can do is financially, if we can afford it, put something to Cotters to help John and help his family get over what must be a very, very difficult situation that they've encountered and are continue to encounter.
Mm-hmm. How many players from that year have been seen selling medals off? You know what I mean? That era. And before that, older players have got blokes won a world. He's one of people selling World Cup medals. They're selling FA Cup medals, league medals. I mean, that's all these people's got, the grandkids, and they're having to sell them to get through life. I mean, it's criminal.
Look at the players in the World Cup squad. You've got Martin Peters, you've got Jackie Charlton, you've got Nobby Stiles. There was 3 straight away that I can think of. There are at least 2 more in that World Cup squad who've all suffered from Alzheimer's. It's unbelievable. And then you look at players like Stan Bowles who suffered from it. We're hearing constantly of other players, and it's not just the dementia side of it. There's players that are affected by Parkinson's disease, and the inquiries and investigation to see whether that has an impact and whether heading the ball and that type of thing has had neurological issues there.
Motor neuron disease as well. Yeah.
Again, and we're seeing motor neuron disease in rugby players as well as a rugby league and rugby union. So there's more than a coincidence there. All of these things should be looking at. And yes, youngsters should be taught how to head a ball. People will turn around and say that the balls were a lot heavier than in those days. They weren't. They were heavier when they were wet. I think the ball still is the same weight. The official weight of a football hasn't changed. They might fly through the air and appear to be lighter, and the way that they're manufactured might be slightly different. But I don't think the weight of the ball has altered in any way, shape, or form. And somebody can put that in the chat and let us know.
Modern balls fly at a much greater speed, so therefore you're actually in some cases, and with the same weight, potentially looking at more damage with a modern ball.
Yeah.
And that's just physics, and so it's super complicated, and that's why some of these studies that are being looked at, there's so much data to shift through, and there's also a lot of white noise amongst that data to get rid of, to get to the actual is there any causality there? Anecdotally, when you just look at it and look at the numbers, there does seem to be a disproportionate amount of former players, particularly from that 60s to 70s era, who have degenerative brain diseases.
Yeah.
And it seems to be disproportionate if you look overlay that with the general population. But until somebody comes up with a proper why, everybody's going to keep their trap shut, because nobody wants a class action like was brought against the NFL. There's going to be a class action brought against the rugby union, and of that I'm quite sure, both the English rugby union and the Welsh rugby union. And people are terrified of it, absolutely terrified of it. But it needs to be, we need to be able to try and get this data sifted through and get the actual answers as quickly as possible. And it's very, very difficult.
Somebody's just put something in the chat and said, you know, if the current squad, like if there's a 25-man playing squad at Newcastle, I mean, seriously, it would be tax deductible, and they could put £1,000 a piece in. You know what I mean? What a bonus that would be. You know, if each player, they wouldn't miss £1,000. I mean, ASM's giving watches away that's 20 grand. So if you could just stick £1,000 a piece in, and let the fans collect as well, you could give Tudor 2 tonics. You know what I mean? You could give them 2 real boosts. But you know, I don't know who the right people to do that. It's taught to us, but you know, he was a legend in his day, and to see a guy struggle without adequate medical support, you think that the players could donate. I thought it was a great idea in the chat. That.
What's your thoughts on this, Joe? It's sad, isn't it, to see somebody like John Tudor go through this?
Yeah, very much so, Steve. Obviously way before my time, being the baby of the show. But one of them players that whenever he's mentioned, you know, my dad's face would light up, you know, that side, rattling them players off that Steve talked about, very much his era. And John Tudor being one of those players. Described him as a scorer of great goals, you know, a bit of a jack in the box, I'm led to believe. So, yeah, synonymous with Newcastle United, and why shouldn't we look after people, you know, who've been fantastic servants to us? You know, heart goes out to him, heart goes out to his family. You know, any organic brain kind of degenerative disorder is not nice in any way, shape or form, unfortunately, as Mitch described earlier, you know. So is it a direct result of heading of football? Who knows? Who's going to say? Yes, it is likely that brain injuries were caused by letting something massively heavy hit you on the head 16 times, you know, every Saturday afternoon. Can we say that that's going on to cause dementia, motor neuron disease? I don't know. The interesting bit, we started this show talking about how we didn't want the American way into our game, but actually in terms of their concussion protocols and everything that the NFL went through, that was a massive plus point for our game. So maybe it's not all bad from over there, you know. But yeah, what do we do? The interesting bit for me about the PFA, I'd love to know what this organisation actually does. And, you know, when I was growing up, you know, particularly around kind of the mid to late 80s, you heard lots and lots about the PFA. It's hardly spoken about now. You know, so are they sat on a magical mountain of money somewhere, you know, just taking without actually giving something back? You're talking about people like Malcolm McDonald, you're talking about people like, you know, England World Cup winners having to fund their own healthcare later in life. Jeff Astle, you know, being another prime example of that. What is the game doing to actually protect these people? Because don't forget, you know, these paved the way for the game that we've got now. The reason that Alan St-Maximin can give a 20 grand watch away is because people like Malcolm McDonald, you know, got the ball rolling and got the game to where it was now. So there's lots of work to be done. Let's look at the authorities. But again, everybody's out to make money now, aren't they? The Premier League aren't going to foot the bill. It's not their responsibility. The Football League won't foot the bill. Now to do with us. And unfortunately, you know, superstars have to struggle.
I tell you what they were doing under Graham Taylor. They were buying paintings, they were buying Lowrys, and were paying a pittance for them, and that are now selling for £8 million. That's what they're doing. That's what they've been doing under Graham Taylor.
Maybe stick that into the dementia research charities then, Steve, and see if they can actually do something useful.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I've put a tweet out to a few of the former Newcastle players, asked them to retweet it. If that's the least to do, hopefully it'll raise a bit more awareness. We've done our bit on the show tonight anyway, so please pass it on. Please retweet my tweet, and let's hope that John Tudor gets the money that he needs. Okay, tweet of the week. Some good tweets this week. Nobby's trumpet. At one point, he played in the same team as Howard Kendall. Kendall may have managed and played for the league champions, but Ferry made the For Your Pleasure album. Ferry wins. And that's in response to Danny Baker's tweet. Brian Ferry is goalkeeper in the Washington Glebe side, 1959. And there we go. Big shout out. Any of you watching the show, perhaps? Gordon Smith, Arthur Short, Brian Ferry, Bob Buchanan, Ray Cowan, Ken Woozy, and then the front row, Billy Ray, Alan Cutt, Peter Graham, Ray Lumsden, and Keith Nesbitt. Great photo, that. Great tweet. Thanks for that. Roy Manterfield, handy reminder. Push means push. Very good. When your wife books the little one's birthday party the same time as the Newcastle game this weekend.
I thought that was a lookalike for a minute.
This one in response to Centre Parks, which has had a bit of adverse publicity this week. I bet you
stay in your cabins.
Stay in your cabins. Yeah, very funny. This one knocked over my Sports Direct mug of tea today. And then Bruno's Magic Hat said, did you drink half of it first? This one, I've seen lots of tributes today, but when Keith Richard posted this picture of him meeting Queen Elizabeth for the first time, I finally lost my shit and cried with the rest of the world. Dear me, how. I did like this one. Pete Sibley, Alan Shearer.
That's a good one, that, isn't it? Very good.
Very good. Alan would kill for hair like that, believe it. There'll be no need to change the banknotes in Liverpool. They've all got Charlie on them already. And I didn't know Formula One had subtitles. This one from James. Two mafia hitmen are walking deep into a forest in the middle of the night. One of them says, I've got to admit, I'm scared out here. The other replies, you're scared? I've got to walk back alone. And a Chinese restaurant's been hit with a 10 grand electricity bill. They said they can't turn off all the lights, but they do dim some. Very good. Stephen Kennedy on Facebook, once again in a Sunderland home. Wife, where did you take the dog yesterday? The husband, the regular places. Why? Wife, she's acting very differently. This one from Fire and Skill, good pal of mine. Hi, I'm Bob, and I'll be the token tall guy blocking your view today. Thanks for your cooperation. Fuck you, Bob. Bit of humour there from the husband and wife. This one, brazen thieves steal £4,650 of Lego from Nottinghamshire shops in 2-day spree. Joe said, police don't know what to make of it. On fire this week, aren't they? Oh. This did make me laugh, and I did think this when I saw this poor woman. Elizabeth has been to see the Queen today. I've been around 7 times. Woman thinks she's at Alton Towers. Actually, that is a true story. That woman has been round to see the Queen 7 times in Edinburgh. Bizarre behaviour. Bizarre behaviour. Tom says, I've got milk in the fridge. It's seen two prime ministers, 2 monarchs, and 2 Chelsea managers.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Sorry, I need to immortalise Wayne Lineker's tribute to the Queen because I will never want to see it. I did see it eventually. I couldn't believe his tribute to the Queen. It was bizarre. God. Absolutely mental.
Bizarre bloke.
He is, yeah. Fesshole, one of my favourite Twitter accounts. I'm 44, love football all my life. Season ticket for 15 years. I've no idea what's going on most of the time. I can't read tactics or figure the formation, but I know when to make the right noises and say, space. I like it when we score, though. Nice to see Jordan Pickford making an appearance at the Great North Run. NG said, I suppose they'll add the rest of that minute silence on as stoppage time should Liverpool not be winning.
26 seconds.
Nick DeMarco tweeted, yes. Gareth Vartley said, are you saying the NUFC takeover's finally gone through? It has. Zara, who provides us with a lot of the tweets. Thank you, Zara. The good thing about only drinking once a week, you get pissed really quickly. The bad thing about only drinking once a week, you get pissed really quickly. Last few, NUFC threat level says it had to be a hair clinic, didn't it? It's already in 3 group chats. And then Ingle says, I bet they had to pay a lot of money to be our sponsor. Very good. Very droll. Steve Jackson. Yes. Steve Bruce from 5th to 5th bottom. Can still remember when it was going to be hilarious because he would surely take West Brom up and Howe would take Newcastle down. Just maybe fans who watch their team week in, week out, understand football. Radical. I know. Good point, Steve. I've seen a lot of people making similar points this week. Eddie Howe way. Not quite as much as when Bruno signed for NUFC. What's he talking about? Well, the flight tracking statistics regarding the final flight of Queen Elizabeth II. In the minute after the transponder of the plane activated, an unprecedented 6 million people attempted to follow the flight. Yes, so you're right. Not as many as the plane spotters who follow Newcastle. And the last one is this one from the Berry Pub. Morning all from the Berry Pub. Must have been some session. Wrong shoes on. 2 different shoes on and his pants the wrong way around. Is that John Justice Allen?
It could be.
After a day out with Keith. I think it is. Thanks for your tweets, Zara, and everybody else who sent them in. Keep them coming in for next week. Still got a lookalike, Elliot's a little bit to come and troll of the week. And of course, we'll be looking ahead to the Bournemouth match towards the back end of the show. Ivan Toney, Keith, is he the man who got away? And was Rafa Benitez to blame? Because I've seen this narrative being spun quite a lot recently. And it's something which I've had heated discussions with some of my mates about. Rafa knew nothing about football. He gave Ivan Toney away. I don't even think he knew Ivan Toney existed. And me and Steve have already had that conversation off air before we came on. But was he the one that got away, Keith? He's been called up for England now.
I think on Rafa, I've heard people say to me, argue with me that he let Mitrovic go. You know, my opinion is people. I think we naturally like to, I don't know, fess up somebody who's Mitrovic wasn't good enough for our team now. He's a good player, but I'm not disappointed that we took the money on Mitrovic and got out. So, and I still don't think Mitrovic would do anything at Newcastle now. He's a canny player, but he played a lot of awful games. With Toney, I would like to change it from Rafa. If you've got a clown like Steve Bruce, I think it's justifiable that he gets a team 5th and takes them 5th bottom. And he'll take them into 3rd because and it won't be his fault, it'll be the player's fault. When you talk about Rafa, of course he can pick a player and of course he can coach a football team. So I don't want to turn it into a Rafa and Ivan Toney thing. What I'd like to do is look at Newcastle. Did Newcastle let somebody get away? And I think it's a massive yes. I think that at the end of the transfer window, I thought that we would go. I just thought we were looking for a home-based player. And I think the club was surprised that Isak's price come tumbling. And it didn't come tumbling to a low price, but Newcastle had to buy big and they got him. And I think his price did drop from what they first wanted. I think it dropped quite a bit. Toney, I thought, was a choice between him and Calvert-Lewin. I think he's way better than Calvert-Lewin. You know, like if we were going to get one of them players, it would have been Toney all day long for me. And I don't think people realise he's on a player's cap, Ivan Toney. Don't scorn it, but his wages are limited to 1.092 million per season, basic, which is 21,000 a week. That's his basic salary, and in football, that's very low. So he's on a cap, and that's why that there is a cap at that club on salaries. He got a 5-year contract in 22, and it's worth just over 5 million. So he's not on massive money. But if you look at the work he's done, last year he played 35 games. And I looked at him because I thought, we've got a chance of getting him. Played 35 games. He made 5 goals, but he scored 12. And that's 17 goals or assists in 35 games. It's like 1 in 2. So every other game, he either creates a goal or scores a goal. This year, he's done better. He's played 6 times. He's made 2 and scored 5. And this is without cup goals as well. He scored last year and this year in the cup. So to play 6 games this season, score 5 goals and makes 2, it means he's, I did some numbers on it. It means he's scoring every 108 minutes. So just over every game he scores this season. And he's either making or scoring every 77 minutes. So every game he's either making you a goal or scoring a goal. I think he's a phenomenal talent. And I think that Toney, you know, if you're going for one or the other, his league's better than Calvert-Lewin for me. And I think he's tough. I think he's a hard player. I think he's leaving a leg in. He got booked 8 times last season. He's been booked once this season. So he doesn't shirk his job. And against Man United, he was absolutely awesome when they butchered Man United. But I think he's a cracking player. And I think it's not Rafa Benitez, as Steve Hasty will eloquently tell you that he wasn't made aware of where he was. But I really think Newcastle let a cracking footballer go. And I think they prattled around with your Nile Rangers of the world and flogged dead horses in them sides. Whereas Ivan Toney, I just don't think he got the games. I don't think he got the chances. I think he was sent on loan and then just sold before he's ever brought back to do something. And I blame more the scout and coaching thing beyond, you know, outside of Rafa for that. But we've lost a cracking footballer in my book, and he would do a job at Newcastle now with Wilson and Wilk Ezer.
Eddie Howe made the point, Mitch, today that, look, at the end of the day, you know, these things happen at different times when there's different personnel, which is the point that Keith's just made. And, you know, Chelsea gave Mo Salah away.
Yeah, ran Kevin De Bruyne. You know, let's be honest. Look, I think this is more of a feeling of what's below the first team in Newcastle United and what was below the first team. Somebody should have been campaigning to say we need to keep this guy. That said, there were rumours at the time that he had a bit of an attitude problem, and let's not forget that's why Mitrovic was let go by Rafa, because he just basically wouldn't do what he was told. And Rafa won't tolerate anyone like doing that. Also, players develop at different stages of their career and different ages. Ian Wright, the quintessential late bloomer. You know, how many times was he let go from various places? And Palace nearly let him go, if you read some of his background, you know. So you can always, this always seems so easy with the benefit of hindsight, like so much in life. When you can look back and say, oh, well, look at that, and look at that, and look at that. Toney's, I think, when he's got to Brentford, has had an attitude change and is knuckled down and is expressing the talent that he has. Somebody somewhere listened to somebody in the background at Newcastle United when he was sold, though, because there's a number of sell-on clauses that are still active now.
Right, yeah.
Even via, now he's Brentford, the sell-on clauses that were had inserted when we let him go, obviously reflected that somebody somewhere thought the raw talent, if it could be nurtured, was going to go far. And so he has. And you hear nothing but quite positive praise from his manager at Brentford at the moment. And so it goes to show that if you knuckle down, you can break the system in England. Because Southgate seems to pick his favourites more often than not. And there's quite a few players who must be looking at that squad scratching their head, thinking, well, why am I not in? And he is. But when it comes to Toney, I think, like I say, the bottom line is it's not the fault of Rafa, it's the fault of what was below the first team under the previous ownership, which was not a lot.
Norwich and Harry Kane, Steve, there's another one. We're getting lists of them. Sheffield Wednesday let Vardy go, says Mr. Anderson. Look, the clubs are littered with it, but we only focus on Newcastle on here. And I guess it's just, I never felt like it was the one that got away. And in the summer transfer shows that Joe and I did, when anyone said Ivan Toney, I think Joe might have been the same. I was going, oh God, please no. I don't see the point in going back. Never go back. Meatro, definitely not. He fits the pattern of play that Fulham have. Doesn't fit into what Eddie Howe would want. Certainly not a grafter. That's exactly what Keith said. That's why Rafa got rid of him. And I don't think it's the one that got away. And good luck to him. And Stu Penman's just made a really valid point. It's not about who let him go. It's about the kid actually went away, knuckled down, grafted, and he's earned himself a top-level career in football, which is what Niall Ranger didn't do. Niall Ranger was more interested in arranging to meet people for scraps in Nando's and, going out drinking with his buddies, living that kind of bling lifestyle. So, you've got one who showed the perfect example and another one who blew his big chance in the big time.
Yeah, just before we get on, I remember I had a story about I heard from a postman who knocked on 9-year-old Ranger's door to deliver a parcel, and at the top of the stairs was a full life-size cardboard cutout of Niall Ranger as he looked down the passage. The next week when he went, he walked up the path, and the life-size cardboard cutout had been smashed in half by Niall Ranger's lass, and it was lying in the garden. God knows what went on there. But
brilliant.
Getting back to Ivan Toney. I mean, I just while Keith was talking, I just wrote it down. 2015, he had 2 spells at Barnsley on loan, and then 2016 he went to Shrewsbury for a season. 2017 he went to Scunthorpe, where he stayed. He then went to Wigan and then back to Scunthorpe again. And in 2018 we sold him. So in that period of time from Rafa, when Rafa came in 2016, he'll never have seen him. He'd not have been him. Somebody, as Rafa said, didn't even make him aware that he had this player that was out on loan. Rafa's sole concentration in his first season was to make sure we stayed up. The second, which failed, the second spell was, well, I've got to get we back up. So, and we know as well as anybody what Rafa was like. He was like focused 100% on what I got in front of us, what's my task. And if somebody in that football club who looked after the squad, who obviously didn't have meetings with Rafa, didn't talk to Rafa, didn't explain the situation, didn't tell him that these are the players we've got on loan, because I'm almost certain if Rafa knew that he had players out on loan, he would have gone and watched them, or he would have sent people to watch them, and he would have got reports back. But the way that the club was structured, it was a case of, we'll send somebody out on loan because it'll get them off our payroll. That's the sort of attitude. We all know what went on at Newcastle United during that period of time. And as far as Ivan Toney's concerned, Keith and the guys absolutely right. He's knuckled down. He perhaps realised that he in his own head he had the ability. He just needed the break. Obviously, plugged away there. Barnsley, Shrewsbury, Scunthorpe, Wigan, and then eventually got a place at Peterborough. In a permanent move. That was his first permanent move. They picked him up. He did really, really well. And that's the club who, let's face it, were not exactly the most glamorous of the London clubs. Took a gamble and Peterborough dipped in and said, yep, you can take him. They picked him up for a song. And it just so happened to be just at the point where Brentford were developing their ground and pushing themselves forward and managed to get promotion. I doubt at that particular time when he signed for Brentford that anybody tapped him on the shoulder and said, you'll be playing in the Premier League in 2 seasons' time or anything like that. It wouldn't have happened. But that's football. You get the lucky break. And I'm delighted for the kid. I'm delighted. I think his performances that we've seen over the last season and then this season in the Premier League have been unbelievably good. And it's nice to think that a player like that can get an opportunity, which he now has to grasp in the England squad. And he could be on that plane to Qatar in a couple of months' time because he's the player in form. And all I would say is it's very rare that England managers take on-form players at the final stroke to a major competition. They usually sit back and they look at the squad, and he's already decided a couple of seasons beforehand who he's going because of who he trusts. If Ivan Toney can break into that and break the mold and get a place on that plane, then like probably every other Newcastle fan, I'll be absolutely delighted for the kid. And certainly every Brentford fan's going to be chuffed to bits. And I think if I'm right, they said he was the first player in something like 100 odd years to be called up into the England squad, having played and being in a Brentford shirt. That's unbelievable. And that says a lot for Brentford.
If Steve, if it's right what you say about people playing shit and getting to the England team, Grealish must be captain then.
Yeah. And I can think of a few others as well. I've never seen an England squad with so few midfielders, so many so-called strikers who are really midfielders, and an abundance of central defenders, most of whom are crap.
Yeah, Joe, people making a point in the chat. I mean, look, there's a lot of people who didn't like Rafa and still don't, clearly reading the messages. But Zara has just tweeted a very valid point, which essentially is Rafa was forced to sell as well to bring players in. He didn't have the budget that Eddie Howe has at his disposal.
So can I just check then, gentlemen, England are going to win the World Cup? Is that what you've just said?
I'll tell you what.
It's an interesting one, isn't it, Steve? Because if you think about it, think about where Newcastle United were at that time. Was Rafa Benitez in charge of incomings? No. Was he in charge of outgoings? Arguably not. At that time, was Ivan Toney pulling up trees? Absolutely not. We were fighting for our lives in the Premier League. Would we have all been happy if we'd have said, you know what the answer is to us staying up? There's a kid called Ivan Toney that no one's ever heard of. And then we went in the Championship and we had a certain player called Dwight Gale who was absolutely terrorising it and scored a bag full of goals and won us the Championship. So was there ever a space for Ivan Toney? Therefore, did he really ever get away? Nah. Is he a good player and are we pleased for him? Yeah, absolutely. Although the fact that he kissed his badge in front of the Gallagher at St James's Park last time he was there, I hope he doesn't sign for Newcastle. So yeah, he's a reasonable player. He does he look better because of where he's playing and the type of players he's playing with? Yeah, arguably.
He's better than that, Joe.
Yeah, he's a decent footballer, Keith. I'm not saying he's not.
He's a cracking footballer.
But well, we'll see. I think for us now, you know, we talked about, look, we're signing £63 million footballers now. I don't want to sign a guy who's playing reasonably well for Brentford. So good luck to him. If he plays for England, I hope he does well. Is he good enough to break into the Champions League sides? Time will tell.
Interesting. I think it's certainly split again the chat tonight, and I think ultimately from my point of view, I just think you don't go back. But good luck to him, and he's in the England squad. He's earned it, and I think if anything can come from it, it just proves that hard work does get you somewhere, and he is somebody who certainly showed you that. He had to go back to go forward. And that's a great example to any footballer. Big thanks to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals. 304 Old Durham Road. Telephone 01914782730. Website darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists. You can find them at thegohd.com. And thanks to 3 Properties who specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients. They're looking to invest in the Northeast. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. And they've done over 100 plus deals in the past 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property. And phil.reed_northeast property, or drop Phil an email, phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at mrvickies.co.uk or by ringing 01768 210 102. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the video side of things, and qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. If you want to subscribe, hit the NUFC Matters logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to pose a question. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. If you want to become a member, click join underneath the video tonight. and you can make a small donation to the channel. Or if you want to spend a little bit more money and get these little goodies, a cup, a pen, a scarf, and a membership card and entry into the monthly draw, then go to nufcmatters.com and click membership, or use the QR code to take you straight there. We also give you a free car sticker if you're a subscriber. Just email John at nufcmatters.com to claim your freebie. And we support the food bank. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is the virtual bucket. Go and make a donation there 365 days of the year. Better still, go and take some food up to the food bank tomorrow outside Shearer's Bar. Steve Hasty will be there, Bill Corcoran and the gang waiting for your donations and for a big crack as well. And rumour has it there might be somebody a little bit special going there. I've only heard a rumour on the street. I don't know who it is, but it's not me. Dog and Parrot is where you'll find Supermac tomorrow at 12:30 and at 6:30 after the game, pre-match and post-match. If you fancy a pint down the big market, John Anderson and Gibbo will be down at Pumphrey's. They're both free entry, both starting at 12:30. Get yourselves down there. And don't forget as well, Supermac is back in front of the mic on Friday, the 11th of November. Tickets are a tenner at the Seaton Delaval Terrace Club, 0191 237 0133 for your tickets. It's a pie and peas supper. You can also get a table of 6 for £50. And we've also got the Takeover anniversary night. You can come and meet me, Steve, Keith, Joe's father. We'll all be there. Get yourself along. It's a Friday night at the Irish Centre. Tickets are £2 on the door. It's just a get-together. Nothing special. Bit of background music and a chance for NUFC Matters viewers to meet each other and just to donate a few quid into the food bank. If you don't want to pay online, stick your money in the bucket on the door on your way in. But it's just a nice get-together and a chance for us to all have a big crack. Last half an hour for the food bank T-shirt. Signed John Beresford T-shirt is up for grabs. Go and make a bid at Steve Wraith on Twitter. Last time I checked, it was at about £45, which is a snip for a signed Bez T-shirt, and it's a one-off as well. So get yourself onto Twitter and find that and make a bid and make a difference to the food bank. Okay, time for Elliot. In the green room, I can always see Steve giggling at the same jokes every week. Elliot says, I've just passed grade 1 in the harp. I had to pull a few strings to get there, though. God, I love them, like. I love a good dad joke. I love a good dad joke.
You get any better?
They're doing like, good evening, Jules. I've just seen you come in there. Good to see you. Oh, Vince Smith, £50. Thank you for the Beresford T-shirt. He has put the bid in next. Brilliant stuff, mate. My Great North Run walking partner. Andrew, we'll let you have a go at giving us a bit of a subject matter before we get on to Bournemouth. What do the lads think of the new tech for offsides? Will it help? And should offsides be feet only, as goals recorded as left foot, right foot, and head? Can't find how many goals by shirt or sleeve. Joe, I'm going to give you this one to start with, because you always end up, when you're on this one, a little bit, you end up having to just find something different to say when everyone else has had their say. So you go first on this. The new tech for offsides, I mean, again, more technology. VAR has been a bit of a muck up, hasn't it, in recent weeks for us and everybody else. But what's your take on that?
I haven't got an opinion. I think we should bring Keith in. Listen. How many more times can we talk about VAR? But we have said a few times, haven't we? The technology's fine. There's nothing wrong with the technology. It's the dickheads that are watching it. Yes, it was always going to evolve. Everything always does evolve. If it brings something to our game, if it stops these ridiculous decisions, if Isaac scores and he's not offside by his nose's shadow, then great. But like anything, time's going to tell, isn't it? We shall see. I'm still, I keep banging on about it. I'd rather the linesman just puts his flag up and does his job like they used to. And the referee made a decision, but let's see. We'll probably get done by it either way. I said on a Monday night, NASA could design it, and he'll still put his flag up against Newcastle. So, I'm getting to the point now. We're just thinking, I don't really care. It is what it is. It'll be what it'll be. And as long as people are willing to give people offside by a sleeve or a kneecap or a toenail or whatever, you can have all the technology in the world for me.
Steve, it's going to be, again, a new system, which they always do this. They always bring things into the World Cup and they test them at the World Cup because it's the biggest stage in the world for football. Sometimes they're great, other times they're not so great. What's your view on this?
I think that this has the potential to be the game changer. Only time will tell. I think that's a phrase that Joe's been using now for quite a few months. Only time will tell, and he's right. But I think it could well be a game changer. It's technology. It's another avenue for the leagues to go down. I think they're using it in the Champions League at the moment. Bring it in, but yet again, that for some reason the biggest, strongest, richest league in the world is relying on a load of blokes who they couldn't even get sponsorship from for Specsavers. That's the way that they're sitting at the minute. It's all down to Riley. It's all down to the PGMOL. It's their own interpretation of their own rules. And you've seen what ex-referees are saying about those particular individuals, whether it's Hackett or many, many others that Mitchell whose names Mitch can rattle off just like that, because it's been a farce. The PGMOL has been a farce under Riley. I've spoken about it many, many times, and I'm sick to death of Riley. I'm glad he's gone. But I just wonder about the nuggets who are bringing in, the Mr. Man United and in Howard Webb, for example, and we all remember what he was like as a referee, pedantic. Let's not forget also he's from South Yorkshire, and we all know how good as an ex-policeman he must have been down in South Yorkshire to be taken back after being a crap referee. So that's all I'm going to say about him.
Lots of people seem to be excited about the new technology, Mitch. Donald said, never mind the technology. On-field officials need to take ownership for their decisions. Technology should be there to assist.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's being used and applied incorrectly. As Joe rightly says, the technology is not the problem, it's the application thereof. For me, we need to go back to this concept of being clear separation between the attacker and defender. Let's stop measuring it to the nth degree, because even if you still use the technology, if you're going to measure it to the nth degree, whether you say it's feet or whether you say it's shirt sleeve, all you're doing is moving that point where somebody's trying to differentiate a pubes width between two players to say whether it's on or offside. It's ridiculous, really, and we need to have some more clarity about how the technology is used, how it's referred. It should stop guiding referees to make a decision, but be there for referees to use to make better decisions. And I think that's where the problem lies. And it's still not going to fix anything. New technology, the new auto offside technology's got a few wrong as well already. So there's no technology's infallible. We've had a game recently where the goal line technology didn't work, and an obvious goal wasn't given. So again, the technology is not infallible. We shouldn't be reliant on the technology. We should be using the technology to make our officials make better decisions. That's what happens in rugby. That's what happens in cricket. That's what happens in the NFL. To go back to talking about what things we can take from the American game. Got to bear in mind, it took the NFL about 9 years to get their video review system right. But people were still complaining about it after 5 years. After 5 years, it had a radical overhaul because games were starting to stretch to 4.5 hours because nearly everything was being reviewed. They now seem to have got the balance right, but it's taken them a long time. And again, we said this when they were talking about bringing the technology in. It'll balls up, it'll make mistakes. The DRS system in cricket, that only recently was agreed by all of the cricket boards when the Indians finally said, okay, we'll trust this then. So the technology is always going to have problematic periods during its introduction. But the problem is not the technology; it's the fuckwits using it.
Keith, your take on this? It's just another thing, isn't it? It's another thing on the horizon which we've got no say over, and which we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out.
It's quite staggering. There's 5 football fans on here, and we're all united in one opinion that it's not the actual technology that's at fault. It's the dickheads that's using it. But if you watch the tennis, and a ball is called out, whether it's by the umpire, by the line judge, or anything, it all reverts back to that television decision. And the ball will either be on the line or over the line, and then it's accepted, and then they move on. Right?
You cannot be serious.
Go on here, Steve lad. I'll bring the Dalmatian on, son. So what happens is when you see that ball on the TV, you look straight at the telly, and you look at the line, you say it's out. A little bit like they did in football when they got that first thing about the ball being over the line or inside the goal or not. So there's very, very little dispute about the technology where the ball is over the line or not in a goal mouth. And here we are all agreeing. We're just football fans, just ordinary fans. There'll be 50,000 of us there tomorrow. We're all the same. We're just people that go look with our eyes and we have an opinion. And we're all saying there's nothing the matter with the system. But surely to God, the debates we're having on here should have been done before the season started. They should have said, is it the shirt? Is it the last point that the foot's touching the ground? Is it the body? And they say, right, I tell you what it is, it's the feet on the ground. Next time someone's offside, they put the line right across the feet to say, you're off, mate. Just like they do on the tennis with a ball. Sorry, mate, it's over the line. Finish. But when you give it to a Big Six dominated league and some less than straight officials and bungs and brown envelopes, anything can happen. And you've just seen the season of it already. It absolutely stinks to high heaven. The whole VAR thing is dog shit and it's bent.
You kind of get a straighter opinion than that. There we go. Good question. Thanks for asking it. And we'll wait and see how it all pans out in the World Cup. Okay, half an hour to go. Make sure you get your bid in for the John Beresford t-shirt. Still at £50. Looks like Vince is going to win it unless somebody pips him at the post. It's now time for Toon Lookalike. Toon Lookalike. Let's get these ones out the way. Thanks to Tim Cairns. Very familiar.
Zelda from Terrahawk.
Thanks to Andy Cooper. Steve Hasty as a child. Chippers was late in, but I've still managed to get it in there. Old Etonian face masks are back as Halloween closes in, he says. This one from Andy Cooper as well. Hasty the morning after a good night out. This one, Toon Lookalike, Steve Hasty.
Right.
It's a new picture. This was me at the Great North Run. Rich Joblin says Steve Hasty gets everywhere. And this one, Steve, this looks more like you than the Queen. Thanks, Mark Byers. Good evening. I've seen you in the chat there. Look at Hasty on TV talking about the Queen. Thanks, Rita.
Oh, no, thanks, Rita.
And thanks to Peter Jane. Got to look like you for the show. It's Steve Hasty after a VAR decision. If you can forward to Steve Wraith. Cheers, Jingo. Thanks, Jingo. This one from Sam. Looks like Steve Hasty's got hair extensions. And this one as well.
Hello, Spencer.
And Adam Richardson. Down as a Royal Super fan. Anyway, moving on. Paul Whitfield, he says, Haaland watching himself score. Very good. Very good. I like that one. This one from Rita, Southgate and Gringbot's Goblin.
God almighty.
And Steve, I've just seen a man run an advert for Professor T. That's very good. Very good. Very good. Yeah. This one, you've got to squint your eyes a little bit. He says, I'm sure I've just seen Sean Connery on Coronation Street
That's good, that.
in the jury at the back there. Rita, this one, Droopy and Redknapp. And also this one, Jurgen Klopp and Matthew Lillard. That's from Tom Dixon.
Ooh.
Very good. And this one from Wayne, Vladimir Petrovic and Luka Modric. Could be his dad.
Both got niche.
Yeah. Again from Tom, Manuel Pellegrini, his doppelganger from the Muppets. This one from Albert, he says, in Kavtat, Croatia, and guess who I found sitting in the port? Yes, Wraithy gets everywhere. Very good. This one from Jimmy, his graduation picture and 80s pop star El DeBarge.
Jimmy, that's brilliant, that.
It is.
Yeah, Jimmy, that's spot on.
Got me off the poster today. He's got me as Alan Robson. Also says the Chili Challenge has to be streamed for a laugh. I'm sure we will. We get it up there. This one as well. Tim Cairns says off the poster of today's show, Mitch and Dawn French.
Ringer.
And this one, Charles Spencer put a tweet out about his first day at boarding school. Keith, who's a Sunderland fan, said, has anyone mentioned your likeness to Nicola Sturgeon? Jurgen Klopp getting some stick. A certain grinning manager at full time this week. That was one from a couple of weeks ago, but couldn't squeeze it in. And that one, Jurgen Klopp and a camel.
Quality, that.
Oh, dear me.
And a bear and Fabio Barini. Michael McIntyre. Very, but it's the same expression. It's I mean,
awesome, yeah.
pretty good. Coming down to the last few here. Two for the price of one from Albert, Tony Mowbray and an owl, Prince Charles and Brian Ferry. He's got into the swing of what a lookalike is there. Say no more, both taking a bung. Very good.
I can still get into the swing of lookalike there, right?
He's still getting into the swing of lookalike, yeah. Richard Keys and Odd Bud from Carry On Screaming. Very good, that Milburn. Thank you for that one. And this one from Sutty, Lee Charnley, in the background presenting the World Cup. That was brilliant, that, from last week, and I missed it. I couldn't fit it in last week. But very good, that. Very good. Last couple, Jimmy Moore, the gingerbread man, and Jesu.
I think the eyebrows are ringers, like.
They are. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Andy Serkis.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent, that one as well. Neil, Steve Cooper and the slot from the Kings.
God.
Number 2, Unai Emery and Basil Fawlty.
Yes.
And the winner this week is this. Uncanny this, when you go to a gallery and discover you've not aged in 430 years. Keep them coming in. We always enjoyed the lookalikes. Fantastic. Thanks for taking your time to scour the internet for them. There's always some good ones to be had. Just posted a new event in the chat as well. Tickets on sale for an evening with Peter Beardsley in January 2023, 19th of January 2023. Now, this will make a nice little Christmas present if you've got a Newcastle fan who has never been to a talk-in, never met Peter Beardsley, a living legend. He is on at the Tynemouth Surf Cafe, 19th of January. Only 35 tickets, though. It's a very intimate talk in this one. I will be hosting it. Peter Beardsley will be there, and it'll be a cracking night. Everyone we've done down there so far has been an absolute belter. The link to buy tickets is in the chat. As I say, there's only 35 tickets. So if you snooze, you lose. Get your tickets ASAP. And as I say, it could make a nice little Christmas present for a Newcastle fan. Okay, it is time to look ahead to the Newcastle United game against Bournemouth. And first up, Tune Stato.
Hi all, greetings from Bulgaria. After a 19-year career with Bournemouth, both as a player and as a manager, Eddie Howe faces them for the first time in his career. He faced his only other previous club, Burnley, twice last season, and he won both games. With Bournemouth, we have a relatively short history in the Premier League, only 8 games, out of which Newcastle has won half of it, 4, drawn 2 and lost 2. Funny thing is that both defeats came at St. James's Park in 17-18 and 18-19 under Rafa Benitez. Now, Newcastle has 3 wins in a row against newly promoted teams, which is their best run since 2013-2014 when we won 7 in a row against newly promoted teams. And all in all, as we've mentioned before, we have lost only once in the last 13 games at St. James's Park to Liverpool back in April. So the stats are very strongly in favor of Newcastle on Saturday. And since we didn't have much stats, one that came to my attention was that Alan Saint-Maximin has caused 32 yellow cards for the opposition ever since he came to Newcastle, while Adam Smith from Bournemouth has 4 yellow cards in his first 6 games. So he should be an easy target for our French hero. Good luck to the lads on Saturday, and let's hope for a second win of the season.
Big shout out to Mini Andre, who was making his voice heard. We've got a future pundit on there, which is fantastic. But as always, Andre, thank you so much for supplying that bit and doing these daddy duties, which is great. Toon Tipster has been with us all night, but I, as you know, do love his music. So let's get the music on. Toon Tipster, over to you.
Howdy, partners. Back to soccer action this weekend for the next roster of games when we return to Gallagate Fields to take on E-Dog's old mates from the south side of the England League. Newcastle are massive favourites at 4-9. The tie is 16-5, and the Cherry Red Sox are not fancied at all at 13-2. Both teams to score is fancied at evens. And if you think there'll be over 2.5 goals in the game, you can also find evens for that one. 1-0 Newcastle is 11-2. 2-0, 6-1. 3-1 is 12-1. Ones each, 15-2. 0-1, 16-1. And if you think Bournemouth will win 2-1, you can have 22-1. With Eddie keeping his injury list close to his chest this morning when he spoke exclusively to CNN pay-per-view, we'll play safe this week with our goal scorers. So Isak to score any time, just under evens. 3-1-ish if you think he'll score first in the game. Ryan Fraser against his old club, 3-1. And attempting Sven Botman to get off the mark at 17-2. If you think Kiefer Moore or Dominic Solanke will get on the score sheet for Bournemouth, you can pretty much double your money on that one. In terms of the food bank, there's still £75 in the pot. So to mix it up this week, I'm going to go for some value and I'm going to put the money on Joe Willock to score at 4-1 and Sven Botman to be booked at 11-4. In terms of the Toon Tickle, I'm going to stick with over 1.5 goals in every Premier League game this weekend. That's coming in at around 4-1. It actually came up for me on Wednesday, for those who follow me on Twitter, at 5-1. This week, with a full championship fixture list, what we can do is we can get 30-1 if you think there'll be 1.5 goals or more in every championship game. In terms of the Super Six, it is open right up until kickoff tomorrow, but get your predictions in nice and early so you don't forget. Alan Hall top scored this week and is currently in 3rd place for the month to date, behind Ian Charlton and Peter Guy, who is top with 46 points. Outright season leader up to now is our mate Roger Spratt with an impressive 94 points. So well done, mate. And a special mention to our first manager of the month, Ryan Martin, who donated his monthly winnings into the food bank bucket. The T-shirt's in the post, mate, from the One Arm Bandit. Bet safe, everybody. Take care.
Great stuff, as always, and good luck to everybody in the Super 6. So, Newcastle United take on Bournemouth, and Eddie Howe, facing his, his old team for the first time. Quite an emotional get-together for him. It's a 3 o'clock kickoff at St James's Park tomorrow. The Bournemouth fans have taken up their full allocation, just under 1,200 seats taken, which is great. So makes for a great atmosphere. As I've already mentioned this week on the show, players and match officials will all wear black armbands as a mark of respect, together with the managers, and they will gather at the centre circle before the kickoff to respect the Queen. And fans will be asked to join a minute's silence, which will then be followed by the national anthem, God Save the King. Big screens and LED perimeter boards will display tribute images to Her Majesty, and flags at the ground will be flying at half-mast. When the clock turns to 70 minutes, fans will be invited to applaud the Queen's 70-year reign. As I've already mentioned, Super Mac will be at the Dog and Parrot at 12:30 pre-match and 6:30 to 6:45 post-match. And at Pumphrey's, John Anderson and Gibbo, they'll just be doing pre-match at 12:30. Injury news, well, John Joe Shelby is recovering, but this game, of course, comes far too early for him. Carl Darlow and Emil Kraft remain out long-term. Of course, Kraft not in the squad, not in the 25-man squad at this moment in time anyway. It is anticipated that Bruno, ASM and Callum Wilson will feature at some point. New signing, Karius should be on the bench as cover to Nick Pope. And with regards to the referee situation, well, it's a return of somebody who brought us a little bit of good luck last time. Craig Pawson. The last time he was in charge of Newcastle's game was away at Burnley when we won 2-1. As for VAR, well, it's Stuart Atwell. Okay, going to you, Keith. Big game this. We've drawn a few games. You know, we haven't had a bad start to the season. We need a good win. Are we going to get it?
I think we will. I think we'll win 3-0 tomorrow. Very, very confident. Joe didn't give us any odds for that. He went 2-0 then 3-1. So I was curious what that was. Pleased to see the reserve keeper come on. I think, as Mitch covered last week, it's a no-brainer that lad, you know, it's set up for him to come and do well at Newcastle. And I think he's stronger than what we've got. So I'm delighted with that. Heard lots of rumour that Bruno and Wilson will be back. I was surprised at Wilson because I thought he was the one that was further back in the pecking. I was confident Bruno coming in, but the CNASMs, there was the doubt. And I, from the injuries, I thought that he would have recovered quickest. I thought he had the least of the 3 injuries, but it seems I might be wrong. But I hope they all do feature. I also hope that if any Newcastle fans bring any of the relatives from Liverpool, that we can explain to them in Newcastle that a minute's silence is 60 seconds, not 20. Because I thought what they did at their ground this week was shambolic. If you can't give 60 seconds for the greatest female servant of your lifetime, there's something sadly wrong with your brain power. So I just hope Newcastle do us proud, as we always do. I've got no doubts whatsoever that we'll be brilliant then, and the whole ground will stand applauding at 70 minutes as well. And I think that'll add to it tomorrow, because when I was down in the London area earlier this week, every store, every restaurant, every pub you went to didn't just have a picture of her. They'd put lighting displays. They'd use their advertising agencies, and they'd really, really gone way beyond. I'm talking. I was 28 miles from the centre of London, and every single shop on the high street had a bespoke sign to give the credit and the respect to our monarch. I know tomorrow there's not a ground in the country will do better than Newcastle for doing the same. So great day tomorrow. Big game for us. Big game for Callum Wilson, for Fraser, for Eddie Howe and his backroom team. But I think it's 3-0 Newcastle. I don't see this being a close one. I think we'll win it comfortably.
9-1, Keith.
9-1 for 3-0.
Cheers, Joe.
Well, I've gone. I came out with my prediction last night. I went 5-0. I think Newcastle will go nap tomorrow. I genuinely think we will get the, we'll get the result that we want, and I think we'll go nap tomorrow. I think with all the players back and a bounce in St James's Park and Bournemouth struggling at the moment, I think we will go for it tomorrow. Yeah. Mitch, give us your views first, and then roll the dice, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of layers to look at with Bournemouth. Caretaker manager. I think we need a performance. They can ship goals. And I think if we play with the intensity and the energy that we can play with, the rest should look after itself. We've got the quality there. And I think we do actually, would be nice to see a performance, a real statement performance. Because for all they can be an exciting team to watch. As I say, the ship goals and the ship goals by plenty. So I think it would be nice to see we turn it on and do something with a bit of style. Hopefully we've got players back and ready to go. But I think even with the players we've had, we were unlucky against a very well organised Palace side. Really, I don't think Bournemouth are any way, shape or form at that level of organisation. So it would be nice to see what actually turn it on.
Okay.
And in terms of the dice says 2-1.
2-1.
Oh, God, I
would like better than that, but
it's a win. A win's a win.
Win's a win.
Lots of people asking about the Beardsley night. It's sold out in 1 minute.
Wow. Jesus. Wow.
I know there's only 35 tickets, but I've just had a message on Twitter saying, is there any tickets left? It's not showing up. 1 minute. I've just had a text from the venue. So we'll ask Peter if he'll do back-to-back nights. This is the problem when you've only got a small venue. We'll ask him. We'll see. Exactly. Exactly. Steve, your views on the upcoming game tomorrow?
Yeah, I think everybody's up for the game tomorrow. We're all looking forward to it. It seems a while since we've been inside St James's Park. It's been one of those weeks, hasn't it? Or 10 days now. So I think we're all itching to get in. The whole emotion of the way the week's gone. I think we need a release. I think the nation needs a release. It needs a bit of free time. I'm looking forward to the game. Just disappointed Joe's not putting up odds on the use of VAR during a game. I presume he's waiting next week for that. Big game for as Keith says, big game for
Go on, he is. Go on, he is.
Big game for Eddie Howe. Big game for the Wilson and for Fraser against their old club. But I think it's a big game for Isak as well. I think it's a big game for him. He fluffed his lines a little bit in the last game when he had that opportunity where he was clean through. Some would say the keeper made a good save. Other people would say that he tried to be too clever and stroke the ball and just put his foot through it. But I think it's a big game for him. He's had a good fortnight with the rest of the squad and with Eddie Howe, and to understand exactly the style of football that we'll play. What I would like to see would be to see him on the same pitch as Wilson tomorrow, and see whether Eddie is going to blend in a dual strike force, having watched us play with one striker, two wide men, three sitting behind them, with the wide men dropping as and when needed. I think this is the sort of tactical approach that we're gonna start to see now as the squad beds in. I'm going to go for 4-1. I agree that it's with a lot of the things in the chat there that it's about time we did hammer somebody. It's about time we did put somebody to the sword. We've been playing well enough to do it, but we just haven't been putting the ball in the net. But tomorrow might be the change that we're looking for. So I'm going to go for 4-1, Steve.
Okay, Joe, what about you, mate?
Yeah, we need to win. Said that on Monday night. We should win. This is one of the fixtures that you'd look at and think, yeah, there's 3 points here. Yeah, big game for Isak. I don't see why we shouldn't win. I'd feel a hell of a lot more comfortable if we get to 2:00 tomorrow and Wilson's fit and Sam Maximin's fit and Gumares is fit. I'll feel a hell of a lot better. But why not? So head says, depending on what the team is, we'll win 2-0. but I'd quite happily take a 5-0 win as well.
I think we would all happily take a 5-0 win. John says you're a little harsh on Isak. Give him a chance.
I agree with John.
He got a chance and he fluffed it.
I agree with John. John knows everything.
It'll not be that tomorrow.
We drink
I wish we should have signed Toney.
We drink it together, me and John, and he knows everything there is. So you are all wrong.
He knows everything. He knows everything about you, Keith. Maybe that's why you like to big him up on the show.
I'm on Team John, and he's a baller.
He's a baller as well.
I know.
You just like picking on Steve Hasty.
I know that's true.
Okay, as always, I saw Julie in the chat, and I know she loves a troll of the week. Troll of the week. Thank you very much from Wardy. Steve Wraith is proper bald. Proper bald. Proper bald. I am proper bald. You're right. But thank you for the kind compliment, and look forward to the next one. Vince says John's a one-arm legend. Andrew's going for 3-0, but VAR will disallow 4. Mozza, I don't think you get a physical ticket. John will help you out, though. Just contact John in the chat. He's still in there. He will let you know. Now, congratulations to Vince. £50 has won him the John Beresford signed T-shirt. £50 winging its way to the food bank, which is fantastic. And thanks to John at QTech for providing the next one. The General Lee T-shirt, 1992 to 2002, Rob Lee. And it's quite interesting this because when John put the Beresford T-shirt out, we then got a whole host of ex-players who were on Twitter saying, "Oh, where's mine?" Including Steve Howie and Rob Lee. So glad to say that we've got quite a few lined up now of ex-players who've all agreed to do these T-shirts for the food bank. So Rob Lee is this week's. I've stuck it on my Twitter page at Steve Wraith. Give us a follow. It's pinned at the top, and just place a bid underneath, and we will announce the winner next week and hopefully raise a few more funds for the food bank. Dave saying it wasn't. I don't think that was a troll of the week. It was. Definitely was.
It was an observation.
It was an observation. What sizes are these T-shirts? Whatever size the person is who wins it, you can decide. Extra small. Great show, lads, says Tim. Bill says, what's the problem with being bald? Hair is a nuisance. You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. John is blushing, Keith.
He will be. He's me pal.
I'm back tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, with Ben Jacobs, where I ask one question and Ben answers one question. And on Sunday, you've got a double whammy. 11 a.m., myself and Toon Tipster will be looking back over the Bournemouth game. And then at 6 o'clock, the professional show with me, Mitch, and Stu Penman, putting the worlds to right. No live show on Monday because I'm going to head down to London to pay my respects to Her Royal Highness, the Queen. I'm going to take in the funeral on the streets of London. But me and George Mitchell have recorded the latest episode of Those Were the Days. And it's a really, really good one. They're all good. But this is good because we'll actually win something. We'll win promotion. 1964-65 season. Joe Harvey's first trophy as Newcastle manager. It's well worth a watch. Absolutely brilliant series. That if you haven't watched any of them, give them a watch now. George does his research, makes them very interesting, and just takes you back along memory lane. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Roger. Look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thanks as always to Keith, to Mitch, to Steve, to Toon Tipster, and to Andre and baby Andre. Much appreciated. See you guys later. Take care.
See you, lads.
Cheers, everyone.
See you, folks.